Welcome to a conversation about the Kingdom Nation, talking about Bulawayo, which is this incredible city right in Zimbabwe, Africa. And today on my stool over here, I have Kindman Ndlovu. He is one of the executives of the Highlanders Football Club, football team, which is pretty well known across Zimbabwe. A few rivalries in Harare, I think.
Yeah.
With the what are they called?
Dynamos.
Yeah. So thank you for being here. I think your passion for the sport and also from what I hear for the next generation is something that is I guess acknowledged and appreciated by so many. So when you think of the sport right now in Bulawayo, what excites you about soccer here?
Good. Thank you so much for having me, John. I think for me, one of the things that excites me especially in Bulawayo when it comes to the issue of sport, particularly Highlanders Football Club, it's the pride of this city. It's the one thing that has stood, strong and kept going on, even when everything else in Bulawayo seemed to be falling apart. Highlanders Football Club has stood the test of time, and we celebrate 100 years this year.
Oh, really?
Yes, it's a century for us.
Wow, congrats.
Very special year for us. You can see the golden logo on our current team jersey. We are quite grateful, and we see the hand of God in everything that has been happening for us. Not all clubs have survived 100 years. There are some clubs that were supposed to be older than us but no longer exist. But for us, we've seen the grace of God every other day.
You guys still here, still strong.
Yeah.
Now, coming back, before we got into Highlanders, what was your journey like? Like, tell me how you got into your passions.
Yeah.
Tell me how you ended up being in Highlanders.
Yeah. Okay. 2005, 2009, I was at the University of Zimbabwe, where I was studying in the medical school, doing my degree in diagnostic radiography. This is what has to do with doing ultrasound scans, X-rays, MRI scans, CT scans. That's what I was into. But being there, we always had our own community of Bulawayo boys, and would meet, just to watch our football team playing Highlanders, if it's maybe on TV, and when Highlanders come through to Harare, we'll just come together and go and watch, and we'll just express the passion and, the pride we have in our city and our team. So
do the people in Harare appreciate that?
They did. They always looked at us. We always made the most noise about our team, even though we're usually a smaller group. But you would always feel that Highlanders is around and Highlanders is fans in this university. So I then graduated, worked in Harare Avenues Clinic as one of the principal sonographers there at a young age, already getting into leadership. I think that's one thing that God has called me for, leading. And I managed to do that very well at a very young age, working with some seniors, but being given the opportunity to lead and to guide others. And I worked there for about 5 years, before I certainly felt I had to retrace my steps, come back to Bulawayo, because I felt I was doing something that was good and people were appreciating me for my work. And I said, but I come from a city that I feel is poorer when it comes to people in my expertise. And I think it would be the best thing for me to do to go back home. Yeah, so I came back home, and when I came back, I was working for another company. But I think 6 months down the line, I wasn't very happy, there. And I said, what should I do? Should I move out of the country? And that was one of the first things I considered. And I said, maybe let me try and move to Botswana for a start. So I went to Botswana, tried to find a job there, moved around, spoke to a lot of people, but I just felt my heart was not in that, I was in Botswana, I prayed about it, and then something just came to me and said, why not go back and try and start your own thing?
Something came to you and said, well, what's that something?
I just, I prayed about, God directing my steps at that time, because I really didn't know what to do. I had got an offer in Botswana, and I was asking myself, should I take it? What should I do? And then something just told me, go back home and, think about it. So I came back home. And then the opportunity came for me to open something, for myself. The first person I spoke to about my idea said, I'm willing to help you to start up. And That's how my practice in Bulawayo, which was called Kindford Ultrasound Scan Center, came up. Yeah, so I opened that. It was in 2020. I started first day of April. That's when I started working on my own. It was on a Saturday. I had left my previous job on a Friday, but the first Saturday of my center, the first day, I was fully booked. It was if I'd been open
In Bulawayo,
in Bulawayo.
you open up,
Yeah,
you're fully booked.
like first day.
Day one.
Day one. So from the first day, I could see God is just telling me, this is where I want you to be. And it was literally like, having patience moving from one practice to the other with you. The people just followed me where I went. And one of the things that I had done in my farewell party, I used to be the practice manager for the practice that I left. So they said, what do we do for you as you are leaving? And I said, you know what, buy me a Highlanders Life card. Buy me that Highlanders Life membership card as a gift, as my final token from you guys. And I said, okay, it's fine. They went to the office, they bought it for me, and they gave it to me on the day. And I said, this is the best thing that you've done for me because I love this club. It's in my heart, and I'm so passionate about it.
And you loved the club from when you were a boy?
From when I was a boy, from even when we were at college. Even most people who know me at college know me because of the passion I'd always shown for Highlanders Football Club. So I get that card, and in a few years' time, I think the rules of the club say you at least have to be a member for 2 years for them to consider you for leadership.
Mm-hmm.
Already in my third year, people were now saying, we need you to come in and lead the club.
Why do you think they asked you to come up and lead?
I think it's probably because of the way I'd been expressing myself in conversations. I think they saw a leader in me. And that's why I say I think this is one of the things that God has always given me, because most of the times I get into a group and people feel I should lead them, So I've always appreciated God for that, and I think it's one of my blessings, it's one of the things that He's bestowed upon me. So I was nominated for the elections, and I had just under 4 years, of card carrying years. And I think the person I faced had been there for more than 16 years. Everyone knew him, but no one knew me.
Yeah.
So I went out there, I sold myself to the people, just speaking to the people and what I felt I could assist the club with. And, I believe God was working that path before me, because almost everyone I spoke to loved who I am and said would support you and would back you up to go into the executive. So come elections day, I think we're voting for the chairman and the treasurer and the committee member, which is the post I was going for. So I won that election, and I had the highest number of votes than any other candidate.
Wow.
During that election. And that's how I then went into Highlanders as an executive member.
And what year was that?
That was in 2024.
2024.
Yeah.
Okay, so not too long. So since you've been there,
Yeah.
I guess a question that I have is your story has really kind of compounded with success.
Yeah.
And you followed what you sensed the Lord taking you to. There's a lot of young people who would look at soccer now and say, is there even a choice? Like, is this even a career path? Should I give up on these dreams? What are you seeing now in terms of the Highlanders Football Club, where you're like, man, this is actually inspiring, this is exciting? Why would you say that this may be the best season yet? Or is it not? Are we still getting things back?
Yeah, I think we're still not where we want to be. Yeah, but I think there's been some positivity, because the one thing that we can't deny is that the world is getting younger. There are more young people. Even when I look at Highlanders Football Club, in terms of its fans, the average age, it's mostly young people there. And I think for a very long time, they've always felt they are not being catered for, because when they look at the leadership, they would never see someone that they can interact with and reflect with, at the same level. So when I went in, it gave everyone a hope to say, oh, at least Highlanders is looking at young people in terms of them.
There's a young voice that we can relate to.
And having the ability to actually lead. And that in itself drew more people towards the club. The young people started to come closer to the club. And I think, when it also comes to the way we think the way we do things. Sometimes when you're young, you're a bit more, more radical and more fast at doing some things, and which is probably what things are happening like now. I think right now things are moving very fast, almost in every field, and it's important to have people that can actually understand and be fast if need to be at that time.
Well, it's great that you're there, because
Yeah.
it's I think it also inspires a lot of other people who may be young to say, oh, I can actually hold positions
Yeah.
in clubs or in companies or even in government.
Yeah.
Tell me, when you take a role like that,
Yeah.
are there stands of righteousness that you need to take? Like, have there been times where you're like, man, I'm not gonna change my position
Yeah.
as it relates to my values, what I believe for the city, when there could even be pressure to?
Definitely. I think football, especially Highlanders Football Club, at any given time we can only register just about 30 players, and but we definitely always get more than 30 players coming through trying to join the club. So in my role as the executive member responsible for the technical and development, I'm responsible for things that have to do with hiring the players, hiring the coaches. And in a world where everyone feels that doing things the wrong way is the right way to be doing things, there's always that coming to you at any time. So you find that there will always be situations whereby people try and push their players into the club, by offering bribes and all those things. Then it then comes to you as an individual to say, what do you stand on? What values do you uphold? And you then make the right decisions to say, no, the player has to be the best, and the player has to actually make sure that they do very well and impress the coaches and be selected. Not that because football agents worldwide and even locally here, they will always try and get their players into teams by offering bribes and doing those things. So those things will always come your way. But if you are grounded and you have your values, those are some of the things that you'll just stand against. And even the players themselves will then realize that at least we have someone who seems to be fair here, and someone who seems to be upholding the right values for us.
It's great. It's a great standard to hold.
Yeah.
And it's an encouragement to a lot of young people that get into a place, or in fact everyone who gets to a place where there's an opportunity to compromise.
Yeah.
Because whatever we allow in our lives, we endorse. And so you endorse something for a community, and now all of a sudden that becomes normal. So thank you for making those stands.
Yeah.
When you look at soccer, pull back from Highlanders, when you look at the entire soccer sort of world in Bulawayo and Matabele land, where are we getting it right, and where are we getting it wrong?
Okay. I think we already have a following, which is probably one of the things that some cities, some countries can struggle with, really having people that love football. But for us, we already have a following, we already have an audience that
Strong community.
strong community. I think a year ago, as Highlanders Football Club in Bulawayo, we actually contributed about 63% of the revenue made in football in the whole country. There are 18 teams, but just one team managed to contribute 60-something.
So it's that strong.
It's that strong. So definitely, in terms of having the numbers and the people that have a passion for the sport, we've done well, and we are good there. I think the only challenge for us at the moment is bringing value into the sport, such that those that are engaged with it, especially the players, end up with something that is worthy. So I think that's one area where we need to improve in terms of getting more value into football.
And I mean, we often point to the person of Peter Ndlovu, who is a huge star that came from Bulawayo.
Yeah.
Are we going to see more Peter Ndlovus coming out, or do we have anticipation and expectation that we can have another era like that again, or is this still so far away?
That's what we're trying to get to in terms of that happening again. It's all about the structures, and that's one area where we need to improve, because If you look at other countries, they start to develop these players at a very young age. You're under 8.
Yeah.
At 8 years old, the kids are being allowed to play, and the one that is talented can be identified, and then they can be developed, trained, and they get to a point. So if you look at some of the players that are doing well worldwide, you can trace their development to that age. So for us, that's where we still have a gap. But I believe once we go in the right direction, I'm happy to see that the current ZIFA president is already thinking about such things, in terms of having very strong structures at its very junior level. And then we come up, we need to get to a point where everyone knows who plays for the Zimbabwe under 15 national team, under 18 national team,
Sure.
21, and then we know how we are progressing up to the national team, so the senior national team. So that's one of the areas where we need to improve. I think if we do that, we'll be able to actually see the Peter Ndlovus coming through, and be able to export talent again like we used to way back.
Because I'm just thinking about a hope in a generation.
Yeah.
A lot of young people need inspiration.
Yeah.
And when they don't see inspiration for a long time, it's like, why should we bring our A game to the table? Why should we believe that there is a hope and a future? What would you tell young people who are, maybe it's soccer, maybe it's something else, but what would you tell young people who are saying, I need a reason to wake up in Bulawayo.
Yeah.
I need a reason to give my effort in my day-to-day or my job or my school. What would you tell people?
Yeah. Look, I think for someone who grew up in this city, I went to a school right here in Bulawayo called Ngeta High School. It was just, our high density schools. People didn't expect anyone or anything to come out of it. But I came out of that school, went to Mpopoma High School, did my A-level, did well there. And I think from the moment when I went to medical school, I was one of the, the good examples in our area. I used to read at our local library, the Ngeta Library. And Ngeta Library, yes.
Okay.
I recently saw them writing a story about me and motivating other students about me to say, there is someone who was actually reading in this library that you guys don't want to use. And that person now is a member of the Highlanders Football Club executive. He's a chairperson at NAS. I'm also a lecturer and chairperson at the National University of Science and Technology in the Department of Radiography. And at the same time, like I said, leadership has always been something that follows me. I'm the current president of the Radiographers Association of Zimbabwe. So everyone who does X-rays, ultrasound scans, they follow under my association, where I'm currently president, second term. And it's those kind of things that people can read about and hear about, look at, and see that, okay, so you can actually come from nothing and get there. And when it comes to the players, within the short time I've been at the club, I've tried my best to always make sure that our own local boys are given a chance, to be promoted. We have a lot of youngsters, even we've got a Division 1 side that has got under 20s, under 21s. So I've always tried to make sure that at least every year we bring up 1 or 2, so that the people around can see that we can actually move from the bottom to the top.
Cool.
And we still have an opportunity at our club and anywhere in this country. So I think I'm one example for them. Local boy at NAST, is one of the chairpersons. Local boy leading at a national level as the president of the Radiographers Association of Zimbabwe. Local young man, boy at Highlanders Football Club. So it's some of those success stories that I think can bring a lot of hope and really make people believe that yes, it can be done.
What keeps you going? Because we hear a lot of negative conversations, right? We don't have to try and find them, they find us. What keeps you going with this positive approach? What keeps you going standing up for righteousness and standing up for values? What keeps you not getting tired?
I think the fact that, like I said before, I've if almost all the things I've said here wouldn't have happened if I ended up being in Botswana. If I had been in Botswana, taken that job up, all this thing would not have happened.
What would have happened?
Yeah, I would have been there and working there and maybe feeling comfortable there. So you would not have a Kindman who is in the Highlanders Football Club executive. You would not have a Kindman who is at NAST lecturing and also the chairperson. You would have a Kindman who is the president of the Radiographers Association. who is inspiring his own people and, serving in the local community. That
So you could have been comfortable in Botswana.
Yeah, I could have.
But something would be missing.
Something would be missing. I wouldn't be serving my people, and I wouldn't be inspiring the next generation of young people and leaders for this country and this city.
So you're happy you came back to Bulawayo?
I am. So one of the things that really keeps me going on is to know that, I am one of the people holding the light and leading the way. So it's really one of the things that pushes me to keep going, because I know there are a lot of people looking up to me.
Yeah, a lot of people looking up to you. I'm looking up to you now. You're so positive.
Thank you.
I'm sitting here and I can't help myself but get excited about the future.
Yeah.
But when have you faced a weak point? When did you experience a low? Where you maybe questioned your decisions, maybe even questioned the future of the city, the nation? Have you ever had that time where you've kind of hit a point where you had to break through something?
Yeah. I think obviously the environment, especially when it comes to the financial rewards in terms of most of the things that you could do. I think if you look at those things with, strongly, those are some of the things that can break your spirit and maybe make you think, maybe I didn't do the right thing.
But have you had a moment like that?
Yeah, definitely.
Describe that for me. What was that moment? I'm curious.
I think when you look at our country in general, and when you look at the rewards that are there for people that work hard, sometimes it feels like people are not being rewarded as much as they should be for working hard, for keeping on grinding, and for remaining in this country and still trying to push the country forward. So sometimes when you look at friends out there, or when you look at other people doing other things that maybe are not right, but they seem to be making the progress, if you look at it that way. Sometimes you can be looking at that and think, but maybe me, I'm not making as much progress. But then you then realize there's a bigger picture to life. There's more value in uplifting the people around you. There's more value in actually being someone who is giving hope to others and being something that people can look up to.
So if there's young people listening today and they ask you, is there a future for me in this country, what would you say?
Yes, there is a future for you in this country. There's a future for someone who is hardworking. There's a future for someone who is standing with God and listening to God. There's definitely a future. There's so much wealth in this country in terms of even the people that we live with. And even when it comes to the natural resources of this country, there's so much that we can benefit from. But I think one of the good things is you need to live a life that you can be proud of by the end of the day.
That's really good. So just real quick, when you hear people that are coming together from churches, denominations, backgrounds that are different, coming together to say, what is the better story for our city, and let's tell that story, and let's put our differences down. What does that do for you when you hear that that's going on in the city?
I'm quite excited, because I think in a very long time, things that have been happening in this country, in this city, have been there to divide people. People have been divided on so many lines, but them coming together for one purpose is really exciting.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So you think we can unite as a city?
We can, definitely.
Awesome, man.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, man, I appreciate you, Kindman. Thank you for joining us. And I'm excited to be also a fan of the Highlanders.
Thank you.
And follow you guys. So.
That's fine. So I've got a gift for you here.
Oh, cool.
Yes, that's the...
You know who's going to like that?
Yeah.
My boys are going to like that.
Wonderful. 100 years of legacy and pride.
Thank you so much, man. It's very kind. Appreciate you, man.
Welcome.
Yeah, thank you.